today we actually got a continuation of what we were talking about yesterday that we want to get into. So make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, yesterday we covered the Shannon Sharpe altercation at the Lakers versus Grizzlies game extensively, right? We covered everything that happened. We even covered what LeBron James had to say in response to it. And I'm sure all of you know by now exactly what happened. For those of you who don't know, when Shannon Sharpe spoke to Dave McMenamin of ESPN, he said they didn't want this smoke, Dave. They do all that talking and jockeying, and I ain't about that jockeying. It started with Dylan Brooks. I said he was too small to guard LeBron. He said, F me. I said, F you back. He started to come at me, and I said, you don't want these problems. And then Ja came out of nowhere and started talking. He definitely didn't want these problems. Then the dad came over, and he obviously didn't want these problems, but I wanted anything they had. Don't let these fools fool you now, right? So we remember that. Now, when we posted the shows, most people were agreeing with what I was saying, but then there was a group of people out there that were saying that, how could I defend Shannon Sharpe? And to be totally honest with you, I was absolutely blindsided by that opinion. I didn't even consider this opinion that people were throwing out there. Apparently, there's a school of thought out there that says, or that is saying, that Shannon Sharpe was in the wrong for engaging with the Memphis Grizzlies players, right? And as a matter of fact, yesterday, while just kind of combing through the internet and just doing some research on the topic, I actually came across a video from Fox Sports Radio that's the employer of Shannon Sharpe, and some former NFL players on the show actually were calling out Shannon Sharpe and saying that he was in the wrong, which absolutely surprised me. So what we want to do is we want to play some of their comments for you quickly, and then we're going to come back and really give you guys our opinion on this. So take a listen to that.
From what I understand, Shannon instigated the whole thing and told Dylan Brooks that he was too small.
He was too small
to guard LeBron James.
Right. But that's just trash talk. That's just trash talk. I mean, but everybody watches the show. They know Shannon loves LeBron James, and so they're going to respond accordingly to anything that Shannon may say when it pertains to LeBron. That's how I saw it. What I didn't understand was Ja Morant wasn't involved, and then his pops over. And then his pops got
over though. He walked over.
And so if I'm Shannon, I'm like, bruh, me and you can just sneak on off and handle this if this is what you want to do. Like,
no doubt.
You ain't a player. So me and you can handle this. Like all this, making up and shaking hands after. Nah, bro, we not doing that.
Oh, they made up and shook hands after that?
Yeah, exactly. It was all for show. Yes, they did. That. Yes, they did. I stayed up, watched it, and seen it and read it. Yes.
Who dapped up?
But I just don't understand why.
Shannon Sharpe and Ja Morant's pops.
If anybody knows Shannon, I know Shannon very well, man. And they call him the mouth of the South for a reason. Hey, the guy loves to talk. He's very confrontational, and he speaks very sternly. But I just don't understand why he would make the gestures towards Ja's father, during the game about what was going on, stepping out of bounds. He was being real extra. And listen, Ja's dad basically attends every game, and he goes there. He just loves to watch his son do his thing. And he gets up and he celebrates, he claps and all those things. But I've yet to see him get into any confrontation with anybody over the past 4 years that Ja's been in this league, and he's one of the premier players in this game. But Shannon was kind of instigating towards him getting up, pointing at Ja's dad, and just really kind of just got under the skin. Like, man, hold on, man. The players out there playing, like, why are you bothering me? That's what I didn't understand about it.
Shannon's wrong.
They're wrong.
Like, he's wrong. Like, I get like, and TJ, I know you real well at this point. I get it. I know both of y'all real well. Ain't none of us going for somebody disrespecting us. Like, you ain't going to say F me. But at the same time,
he bought it on himself.
Depending on the setting that you're in, and you're instigating the way that you're instigating.
Yeah, you can't antagonize somebody and then be surprised when they respond.
That's my point. You can't sit there and be talking bad to the dude, and he's supposed to be like, oh yeah, you're right, Shannon. You're right. I'm too small to guard LeBron. I'm too small, coach. Put somebody else on him. Because Shannon said, I'm too small for LeBron. Like, stop that, man. Like, for me, if I'm Shannon Sharpe, I don't give a damn how many people say, Shannon, don't mess with Unc. Don't mess with Dad. Don't mess with Shay. I don't care how many people say it. That's a bad look. That is a terrible look.
LeVar, you know what made it as bad as you're saying? The trash talk is okay. Because when you see Shannon courtside, you assume he gonna have his mouth on him, he gonna be talking. You assume that.
Mm-hmm. What you mean assume?
Now you just gonna talk trash.
If you don't know Shannon, you just assume that he's gonna. But what made it as bad as you're saying is the fact when he stood up and was like,
it was so aggressive, dog.
Because he was telling Dylan Brooks, like, say it right here,
come right here.
That's what made it bad, because in essence, he was like, you're gonna do all that talking from over there, say that here. Yeah. That's, to me, what made it bad as you're speaking. Look.
So you heard what they had to say. I think that some of what these guys were saying were just absolutely incoherent. On the one hand, they were saying that Shannon was in the wrong for what he said. But then on the other hand, they were saying that if somebody says F me, then there's definitely going to be some problems. Well, based on what I heard Shannon Sharpe say, he never went up to Dylan Brooks or was yelling across the court, F you with all of this. He said that LeBron can't guard you. When did that turn into F you? So if you're telling me that Shannon is in the wrong for basically being a part of that situation, but then if somebody said what exactly was said to you, exactly what was said to him, all of a sudden you want to go to fisticuffs, I'm not understanding your position on this, number one. Number two, I think there's a lot of virtue signaling going on here. I think there are a lot of people that are viewing this situation from a sanctimonious, standpoint. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, I should have done this, you'd have done that." Meanwhile, most of these people, if they were faced with that type of situation, they would have probably acted in the same way or done something totally different than what they're saying Shannon Sharpe should have done. Number one, that's number two. Number three, this happened in real time. Number four, when you bring in testosterone and adrenaline, it's very hard to process information quickly. So for people to be sitting up here talking about, oh, you should have said this, should have said, I think that's quite comical. Here's why I disagree with what these guys just said and what people are saying that are taking that position. I'll tell you exactly why I disagree with it. The reason I disagree with it is simply this. Shannon Sharpe was doing something that every fan does, that attends an NBA game or a sports game. They talk trash, right? They talk to players. I've attended an NBA game before. I've seen it happen. Even me, I was like, man, these guys are saying it to these guys. They talk trash. It's par for the course, right? So it wasn't like as if Shannon Sharpe was doing something that was outside of the ordinary, number one. Number two, he was supporting LeBron James, and he has a right to say, hey, what is it? You're too small for him or whatever. You think that's the only thing that's being said in the court, but we're going to hone in on him, right? Okay, we're going to make the example of him. Fine. Thirdly, the reason I'm not giving the Memphis Grizzlies the benefit of the doubt is because nobody talks more trash than them. And the comments of Dylan Brooks at the end of the game perfectly encapsulates my sentiments toward him. Basically calling Shannon Sharpe, he said, let me just make sure I get exactly what he called Shannon Sharpe. He called him a pedestrian and a blogger. What the hell are you talking about? He's a pedestrian. Now, in hood talk, when you call somebody a pedestrian, it basically means you're calling them a civilian, which means the person that usually calling somebody a civilian is usually the thug. Are you guys moving that way? Number one. Number two, the Memphis Grizzlies are always talking trash, so I feel absolutely no sympathy for them. That's number two. Number three, Shannon Sharpe was talking trash from the sideline. He did not walk across the court. He didn't go over to their bench. He stood where he was basically sitting. They started approaching him, which I thought was a bozo move. It was a bunch of them. It wasn't just one of them. It was a bunch of them coming to him, and he never stepped across the court. He didn't walk on the court. He didn't do anything. He stood exactly where fans are allowed to stand that are paying for games that are sitting, in the first row. So I don't understand all of that, how he incited it. Those guys walked up to him. They didn't walk up to him. Are you telling me that he incited that situation because of the words that he used? So now he's not allowed to say certain things at games because it may cause something. So those guys get to talk all the trash that they want to. Have you watched any footage of fans interacting with some of the stars or NBA players? Have you seen some of the stuff that gets said to each other? Like, I don't understand. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? When you saw Spike Lee talking trash to Scottie Pippen, if Scottie Pippen walks up to him and some other Chicago Bulls, they should throw him out of the game, but he's not a paying customer? Like, where do we draw the line? I think a lot of this is just a bunch of virtue signaling, and then everybody wants to get in front of it and tell you, oh, is this? And finally, let me throw this point out there. A lot of people are saying, oh, I saw that Shannon Sharpe didn't have the smoke for Steven Adams. Listen, let me tell you how people are full of it. Most of the people saying that, had they been in that position, they would have done absolutely nothing. The majority of the people saying he ain't had no smoke, the majority of the ones typing those comments would have done absolutely nothing. Most of them. They will talk the biggest trash on the internet. Had they been put in a situation where you're standing against a 7-footer that's quote unquote the strongest man in basketball, the people that are saying you didn't, they would have done nothing. All of them. If it was just hand-to-hand combat, they would have done nothing. So I think it's comical that the people are saying that. Most of the people saying that would have done absolutely zero. And if you did, you would have saw what happened to you. So please spare me. Please spare me. To me, I think the entire thing is a joke. I totally disagree with everybody that is saying that Shannon Sharpe did something wrong. I totally disagree. The Memphis Grizzlies be talking a lot of trash. Period. End of story. Period. And for Shannon Sharpe to say what he said, I think it was completely in bounds. 100%. Now, some people are saying if that had been anybody else, he'd have been thrown out of the game. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't everybody else. That's life. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you on the next show. Peace.